Suddenly, an enemy helicopter sees them and opens fire, forcing them to split up and flee. It chases Eid but loses sight of her when she hides under a broken wharf. The movie begins on a busy day in Sweden, where a suburban mother, Eid, travels with her daughter, Vanya, when they get stuck in a traffic jam under the tunnel. Suddenly, chaos ensues as people hurriedly flee from their vehicles due to an armed group of individuals out for blood. Eid panics and immediately tries to shield Vanya from the gunshots, only for the pair to get forced out of their car. A few years after the incident, the city has gone through turmoil, and society has crumbled due to the effects of war. Eid, who has been displaced from her home and separated from her daughter, becomes a soldier. After disembarking from a train and being offered food by a refugee, she meets Lieutenant Neeland, who enlists her for an undisclosed mission. She rides with him to his base of operations, passing through war-torn streets and people wandering along the road. Curiously, Eid is brought to a shady neighborhood, where the lieutenant excuses himself to leave and retrieve something. While waiting, however, she is attacked by crazed refugees, forcing her to drive the vehicle away from the area and go to the base alone. Once there, she presents the request papers and gets escorted to the office of Colonel Rod. While waiting, she meets 3 other recruits, Malik, Sniper Granvik, and Lance Corporal Karimi from the F-28 Division, which was recently bombed in an attack. They are soon summoned to the briefing room, where Colonel Rod and his second-in-command, Captain Forsberg, explain that they are losing the war as enemy forces have decimated most of their bases. With no other options to win the war, the team is presented with a dangerous task called Operation Black Crab, which will require them to cross the icy plains of the Stockholm archipelago on skates and deliver some canisters to the Odo research facility. Eid sounds off on her hesitations, believing it is a suicide mission. Still, Colonel Rod insists that she is the most capable of surviving the journey and ending the war. To sweeten the deal, he gives her Vanya's photo, telling her she will be reunited with her refugee daughter in Odo. She breaks down in tears upon leaving the office, realizing her daughter is safe. Later, she returns to her comrades and sees Karimi anxiously wanting to back out of the mission, fearing they will all die. Malik tries to calm him down, reminding him to be hopeful. Captain Forsberg arrives and presents the team with a complete set of supplies for the journey. Eid then flashes back to the last time she bathed Vanya during a bombing raid. She then awakens dazed as chaos erupts outside the base, with missiles hurling right at them. She and the group escape through the burning forest while keeping the enemy forces at bay. Not long after, they rendezvous with the Colonel and Neeland, whom Eid left previously in the derelict neighborhood. The team then wears their skates and glides through the ice, using the cover of darkness, while Colonel Rod stays behind the war zone. As daylight shines over the frigid wasteland, they stop at a post to recalibrate the directions to Odo. However, the ice cracks as they spread, sending Captain Forsberg underwater and killing her instantly. Knowing the capsules are in her backpack, Eid bravely jumps into the icy water to retrieve them from the captain's corpse. Malik pulls her out as the team hurriedly changes her wet clothes and keeps her warm. As the sun sets, the group finds an abandoned home to stay in for the night. While they unpack their supplies, Malik lights up the fireplace and brings Eid closer to it to ease her numbness. Once recovered, Eid expresses her displeasure over Neeland being the mission's team leader. At the same time, he criticizes her for leaving Captain Forsberg to die. The pair argue until Malik keeps them at peace for the sake of the mission. Waking up the next day from another dream, Eid and the others panic as they see an enemy helicopter approaching their area. They move out quickly and hide in a ditch while the aircraft shoots down the property before leaving. Eid then confronts Karimi, suspecting him of alerting the enemies to their presence, as Malik holds him to the ground. Still, he nervously reasons that he used the comlink to contact his radio operator girlfriend stationed at F-28. They remove his weapon and keep him close as they contemplate killing him while fleeing from the soldiers in white jumpsuits. They then continue skating on the ice until the evening, passing by an abandoned windmill and outpost. As the sunlight disappears, they travel along the coastline and reach the other side when Karimi stumbles over an obstacle. He then freaks out over discovering something inside the thin ice. The team soon realizes that they have been skating over the remains of dead travelers and refugees who somehow drowned in the water before everything turned into ice. Though this unnerves them, they shake off their worry and continue. As they stop to rest, Neeland presumes that the corpses were part of a lifeboat that capsized when the enemy attacked. Suddenly, an enemy helicopter sees them and opens fire, forcing them to split up and flee. It chases Eid but loses sight of her when she hides under a broken wharf. The team catches up with her but loses Karimi somewhere in the area. He quickly reappears after getting stranded during the escape. Neeland instructs the group to walk overland to avoid getting spotted. They soon reach an abandoned fishing village in the archipelago called Holmen and raid a house owned by two elderly civilians, whom they initially suspected of being enemies. As things cool down, they settle in with them. At the same time, the old woman explains that she and her husband were forced to leave their burned-down house in the city and find shelter elsewhere since they refused help from the government during the evacuation. The couple seems friendly as they engage with the group and discuss furniture and sports. However, as Eid retrieves her fallen silverware, she accidentally spots the old man's machine gun plastered under the table. She pleads with him to hold off from firing his weapon, but the old man panics and shoots down the table. Neelan kills the couple, while Karimi gets shot and dies. As they try to grasp their misfortune, a call from Karimi's girlfriend, Erin, reveals that he did not lie about contacting her during the enemy encounter. Still, Eid is trying to convince. Neelan responds but hides the truth from the operator before turning the radio off. The group then stocks supplies for the long, snowy journey ahead and leaves Karimi's corpse on the couple's bed. As they continue skating on the ice, Malik feels pain from his bullet wound, causing him to bleed profusely. Despite looking weary and increasingly lethargic, he insists on carrying on with the mission without assistance. Later, they stumble upon a derelict cruise ship frozen in the ice and search the interior for anything useful. Knowing that Malik might not survive the remaining part of the journey, Neelan suggests he be left behind until they can return for him with backup from the research facility. A curious Granvik immediately takes the package and opens the canister, revealing a vial containing a biological weapon. Malik disappointingly realizes they are carrying something that can destroy everything on Earth. Soon after, the group split up and secured the ship by searching every room. Eid steps out and sees the light through her binoculars, suggesting enemy forces are skulking around. She returns to her comrades, only to discover Malik shoots himself in the head to avoid becoming a burden on the mission. Refusing to sit around and wait for them to be discovered, Eid leaves the remaining members, going at it alone on the ice while carrying the vials. After sliding across the thin ice, she sees it cracking and attempts to hold it down by lying face first. Granvik and Neelan see her, but she warns them to keep their distance. Neelan demands she relinquish the capsules, which she does before the two men save her by throwing a rope. After pulling her to safety, the three soldiers carefully slide across the thin ice since they cannot get around it to reach Odo. As they hurry, they hear bullets firing but soon realize they are not being targeted as they crawl across. Granvik snipes down the shooter to stop the shootout, allowing Eid to reach a snowy hill and clear the pillbox of his frozen comrades' corpses. Granvik later recounts by the fire pit about enlisting in the military after suffering a horrible ordeal getting stuck in a mass grave. The next morning, Eid, awoken by memories of Vanya, discovers Neelan has left with the vials, leaving her and Granvik to fend for themselves against enemy forces under the hillside. Though they eliminate them, Eid gets shot while Granvik dies after shielding her from a grenade. Devastated by his loss, she hurriedly chases after Neelan, who is abandoning the mission. As she shoots him in the neck, he pleads with her to throw the vials into the ocean for humanity's future. Unwilling to abandon the mission, she recovers the canisters and leaves him to freeze to death. Shortly after a snowstorm hits, Eid becomes increasingly disoriented, hearing Vanya's voice while also envisioning Malik and Captain Forsberg. She then kneels on the snowy ground as soldiers on horseback surround her. Sometime later, Eid awakens on a bed in an infirmary. She abruptly gets up and searches for a way out when a doctor approaches and assures her that they will alleviate her injuries after sustaining a bullet wound and frostbite to her extremities. Shortly after, she is summoned to a large room where military officials, including a patched-up Neelan, are waiting, letting her realize she has arrived in Odo. The base commander, Nord, congratulates her for accomplishing the mission, awards her a medal, and promotes her to second lieutenant. Though slightly honored to receive high praise for her efforts, she immediately requests to see Vanya. Unfortunately, Nord reveals she had been fooled into believing her daughter was alive to motivate her for the mission. Horrified, she brutally attacks the commander until Neelan steps in to subdue her as she breaks down in his arms. Later, while getting checked by the doctor, Eid secretly takes his scalpel and hides it. She cleans up her face before heading out to see Neelan in his room. She apologizes for ignoring his plan about the vials, which will soon be weaponized. She then convinces him to attempt a desperate effort to destroy them for her daughter's sake. Later, as they enact their scheme, Neelan manipulates one of the junior soldiers to give them access to the laboratory floor. Once there, the pair reach a checkpoint, prompting Eid to stab the guard and shoot his colleague with the rifle. They infiltrate the laboratory and threaten the scientists to reveal the location of the vials. They get led to a glass chamber, where the other scientists nervously surrender the canisters to the pair. Neelan then triggers the alarm to initiate evacuation procedures to help him, and Eid leave while wearing hazmat suits. They reach the helipad, and Eid feels pained by her ruptured stitches. Nord and her men corner her, forcing Nealon to leave the base without her. She keeps them at bay by holding the vials attached to an unpinned grenade. Nord pleads with her to think about her daughter, but Eid insists that is all she has ever done from the beginning. She then jumps off the cliffside, detonating the bomb, which kills her, much to Nealon's regret. The movie ends as her spirit reunites with Vanya while falling into the sea, and the two share a warm embrace underwater. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this to help the channel out. Have a nice day.